In this video, I wanted to talk about when physical pain actually stops us from sleeping. And physical pain can actually stop us from doing other things in our life that we enjoy. But when it actually stops us from sleeping as well, it can create chaos in our life. And I had a friend who this is currently happening for her. And when I went to visit her, I asked her if she just wanted to learn how to tap and see if we could reduce her hip pain so that she could get better sleep and then get back to walking, which is her favorite activity. So very important information to know is that before we did that, she actually had been to the doctor. She had had some x-rays done. So we knew that there wasn't a break in her bone or something structurally wrong with her body, that now it was actually just emotional pain, I'm going to call it, but it was a inflammation that settled in her hip. And this is the type of pain that we certainly can use tapping on to help improve the quality of that pain. You could also use tapping if you had a broken bone, but you have to go get it reset first, right? So just want to make sure that that's clear, that when we use tapping for physical pain, we also have to make sure that we have been checked out by a doctor if needed. So that's what we're going to talk about in this video. I'm so excited. But for those who don't know me, my name is Carol Richard. I'm the founder of the Sleep Success Academy. We help sleep deprived individuals get the quality sleep they need, but we do this by looking at the three components to better sleep, which is our emotional well-being, our mindset, and our behaviors. On my website, sleepsuccessacademy.com, I have a free resource that will actually help you understand these three components better. And so just go to that tab, put your name and email address, and you'll get a copy of that video in your email box. Now, you can unsubscribe at any time after you get this because it will subscribe you to my email list. You just find the unsubscribe button at the bottom, click on that, and you don't have to get any other emails from me. Or at the same time, you can also click subscribe on this video so that you get notified when I do release a new YouTube video. All right, so let's chat about my friend who has had this terrible hip pain for 10 days, and it's affecting her sleep. It's affecting the quality of her life. And like I said, she has been checked by a doctor and there's nothing physically wrong in her hip. It is my understanding of how stress works in the body. It makes a lot of sense why her body is actually having this physical pain right now, because she has been through a very stressful 2023. Without going in details, just the fact that her life was kind of put on hold for a little bit, and now she's able to get back to her life. Her body is now trying to rest and recuperate, and is showing up as this physical pain. That's my analysis of it. She would agree with it. And so when I was there, I asked her if she wanted to try some tapping, because when we were talking, I could feel and see the emotions that she had. There was a lot of grief. So some of emotions, grief, there was a lot of anger about certain events that happened over the last year. And a lot of it was bubbling to the surface. But what she understands, and I was able to explain to her as well, is that her nervous system doesn't have the capacity to feel those really big emotions that want out. Therefore, it's manifesting as physical pain in your hip. This is something we learn in the Better Sleep community, how to build that capacity. And you'll see the way we chose to tap for her is we didn't go after those big emotions or any events from the last year that are still too big for her to process. Instead, we went with the body sensation, or in tapping, we would call that like chasing the pain, chasing the sensation in the body, and chose our words for tapping specifically using this technique. It still looks like the holding the truth tapping technique that I use in the Better Sleep community. And so this technique that I use, we really look at what is the truth of what's happening. So for her, it was pain in the hip. And we started our tapping with that, but then we can explore what I call the 5 channels of human expressions, which is our emotions, our body sensations, which is the pain, our imagery channel, the mind, so thoughts and belief, and the behavior. In the example that I'm going to give you, you'll notice that we only use 2 of the channels because she doesn't have the capacity yet to be able to access the other 3. It's too big. I don't know if I'm making sense with this, but if you're in a Better Sleep community, this will make sense to you. Understanding that our first round was just really, even though I have this pain in my hip, I deeply and completely accept who I am. And even though I have this pain in my hip, I acknowledge that it's there. And even though I have this pain in my hip, in this moment, I'm okay. And then we used pain in my hip as the reminder phrase. This pain in my hip, this pain in my hip, this pain in my hip. I'm doing the best that I can. This pain in my hip, this pain in my hip, pain in my hip. So that was one round that we did. And after we did that, oh, before we did that, I had asked her to rate it from 0 to a 10. I believe she said the pain was about a 6 when she was sitting down. And so we did a round, just really plain basic. We wanted, so this round was really for me. I'm going to share as what I was thinking as we were doing this. I was thinking, I just want to see how much energy's in there. I just want to see what her nervous system will do just by acknowledging this pain in the hip. And the result that we got after that one round was that the pain went down to about a 4.5. So I was like, okay, so now let's talk about this pain. What does it feel like? Does it feel sharp? Does it feel stingy? Does it feel stabby? What is the description of the pain as you focus on your hips? I got her to put her hand on her hip, feel the hip, what it felt like. And I can't remember the word she used. I'm trying to remember, but I'm going to say that and I know we didn't use a tightness in the hip, but I'm going to use tightness in the hip to show you because I can't remember at all what her word was for what was happening in the hip. So we did another round and we stayed there. We said, even though I have this tightness in my hip, in this moment, I acknowledge that is there. Even though I have this tightness in my hip right here, right now, it's okay. And even though I have this tightness in my hip, I acknowledge that it's there and I'm doing the best that I can, right? Tightness in my hip and I'm doing the best that I can. Tightness in my hip, doing the best that I can. Tightness in my hip, I'm going to be okay. We finished the round with just using those same words. And so then we checked again. What does your hip feel like? She got up, the pain had moved and it felt like it was more inside the bone. And so we did another round. Even though I have this pain inside the bone, in this moment, I'm okay. Even though the pain is like inside my bone, right? Inside my bone, inside my bone. So we did another round on that. And so for you to understand what we're doing, we're trying to take the intensity off the pain, but she's not ready to go into the details of the events yet because it will be too much too quick. So we really worked on just working on the pain in the hip, describing it. Does it feel hot? Does it feel cold? She didn't have any of that. And what's always interesting when I do this with someone is all of a sudden she was like, we were just tapping and talking, and she started ranting a little bit about how she understands that because of the stress she's been under, this is a way of her body telling her to slow down. And it went on and on. I can't remember exactly what the rant was, but the words aren't important. What I was focusing on listening to her was at one point she says, it's like a little mouse that like finds that entry hole into your house in the winter. It's like a mouse went in my hip and in my body. And so that's an opening into the imagery channel. And so then we used, and this was funny, she started laughing too, even though there's a mouse in my hip, right? It found a way in. I acknowledge that it's there. Even though there's a mouse in my hip, I'm learning how to be patient with it. And even though there's a mouse in my hip right here, right now, I'm okay. And then we just use there's a mouse in my hip. There's a mouse in my hip. There's a mouse in my hip. And we just finished the round. And so the imagery channel, when it showed up, what that told me as a practitioner and as someone who's trying to improve the quality of her sleep is that her nervous system didn't have the capacity to go to the emotions yet. So you'll notice that out of the 5 channels of expression, we tapped on the body sensation and then imagery showed up. That's quite common. I see this often when the emotion is too strong to be able for her nervous system to acknowledge that. So after we did a round on the mouse on the hip, she started sharing with me a story about when this person she was caring for was in the hospital and how the nurses would come and give her a hug and she felt supported by the nurse. And I asked the question like, how did that make you feel that, they actually took time to come and hug you, even though you were the caregiver in the situation, you weren't the patient? And she said, well, I felt valuable. And from that, we were able to see how she is a person who values herself. She is valued by others. And we got into that spark. So that spark is what we're looking for. And it's that elevated energy that I'm now feeling good. And so we did some tapping. So even though that was a rough time in my life, and I still have this pain in my hip, I'm doing the best that I can. I am doing the best that I can. I did what I could. I felt very valued in the hospital, felt valued and cared for by those nurses. And we did a round of tapping on that spark. And so we kind of stopped our tapping there. It was cool. And then last night I got a message from her, and I'm gonna read it here because it's just so amazing. She's like, thank you so much for coming to see me today and helping me. I can still feel my hip, but I have already checked out lesson 1 and 2 of your tapping 101 and did another session. So feeling more positive than I have 4 days. Happy New Year, bring on 2024. And so Tapping 101 is actually part of the Better Sleep community. I just gave her access to it. She's my friend, so I gave her a gift for her to then be able to teach herself how to tap. And what I love is that she had already done another round of another session for herself so that she could continue working, because she hasn't touched emotion yet. She hasn't touched behavior yet, and hasn't touched mindset yet, the thoughts or belief. So there will be more work to do on this for her hip to get better. But if she can keep constantly tapping, the other thing that happens is that we're sending a calming signal from the amygdala down. So we're reducing the cortisol level, we're reducing the adrenaline, we reduce the frustration. Even though she didn't name it while we were tapping, she felt better because she did say, I'm feeling more positive than I have for years. So we have that spark happening. And when you start feeling more positive, your body will heal faster. So it's not that it takes the pain away like this. Sometimes it does. I've had experiences where it does, but her pain has been long standing. So little by little, she'll keep chipping at this. And then I just replied something to her. And then this morning, the message that really got my heart is she replied, yep, I did sleep better last night and going to sit and tap for a bit now. So, wow, right? She's doing something about it. She is helping herself, and she had a better night's sleep. So just being able to get more sleep will allow her to do what she needs to get better. Really wanted to share this with everyone. Um, if you have questions about the Better Sleep community, if you have questions about tapping, don't hesitate to reach out, support at Sleep Success Academy, or you can book yourself an optimal sleep assessment. Just find my calendar, work with Carol, and we'll talk about it. But it's possible. Sometimes we do have to put the work in, and we would prefer to have a pill that would take the pain away, but even her medication wasn't helping her with the pain. And so this way, we just added another tool to her toolbox to be able to take care of it by herself. That's a big goal for me, is to teach you how to do this so that you can then become your own sleep guru and figure out how to get better sleep for yourself. So that's it for this video. I'm excited, and I'm hoping that you can help yourself get better sleep.